Welcome to my introduction to in-course correction. In-course correction is an effective way to evaluate student progress and the effectiveness of a course. I'll share with you a scenario of one of my own classes and then follow through with a plan for using in-class corrections to increase the effectiveness of the course and the success of the learners who are struggling. So let's start with the scenario. After reviewing participation and grading data at the halfway point of a course, I noticed that two students, I'll refer to them as students M and D, participate minimally in the course activities, often due to lack of attention and poor behavior. When they do participate, many of their results are below average. So we'll need to plan to improve performance for these students, and I'm going to use in-course correction to help me revise my course and make success possible. In-course correction is kind of like a GPS for learning. Just as a GPS recalculates when we stray from the given path, frequent evaluations used in in-course correction increase the chances of reaching our intended destination. Timely feedback on student performance helps us to continually refine our lessons in order to make them more efficient and effective. So how does this method work? By using a variety of assessment strategies, we can gain information about students' understanding, helping us to make instructional decisions, modify teaching and learning activities, and more accurately focus on teaching practices that support learning. So let's look at some of the data I've collected. First, I have an embedded assessment form. This particular form is actually a part of our science curriculum, but something similar could be created for any content area. The concepts can be filled in ahead of time, and simple tally marks can be used to note progress in the moment. The next example is a breakdown of specific science and engineering practices. I scored students on a scale from 1 to 10 in all, but the first category. Again, in the moment, I simply used tally marks. For presentation purposes, I found numbers to be better suited. So here's the summary of some of the data that I collected. You can decide how to evaluate and collect your data in a way that suits you. It doesn't have to be an overwhelming, time-consuming process. In larger classes, you may want to choose a small segment of the class to assess each day over time. You can still evaluate the overall success of a course in that way. You'll notice I've sort of highlighted our two students after seeing that their results fell below the average for the rest of the class. These are the students I will aim to reach with my revisions. This data can be used for a number of purposes. In this case, I'm using the data to pinpoint my concern. Students M and D are scoring low on a formative assessment and lack participation. I'll use it to identify flaws or areas in need of improvement in my course. What changes might yield better student progress or performance? And lastly, the data will help me to revise components of the course in order to improve engagement and success for these particular students. Here are some key points I found to make a priority in planning this correction. Students scored below expected in all categories. The students demonstrated a lack of focus and time on task. And these students often engaged in disruptive behavior. Our first activity, students were meant to determine the conditions necessary for a plant to gain biomass or grow. Revisions and corrections planned here include providing actual plants kept under various conditions, allowing students to visualize what they provided data represents. So they'll be handed a sheet with data already collected, and this way they'll get to actually see it in real life. Highlight specific data or assign one piece to each student to prevent them from being overwhelmed. And draw names to prompt participation. For the next activity, students will apply content to a new situation. Revisions and corrections here include working with students one-to-one or as a whole group to promote interactions, understanding, and completion of the assignment. Having students use post-its as markers in order to break down the activity into smaller tasks. And continue to evaluate those smaller tasks to pinpoint even more specific areas in need of revision. For the third activity, students will collect evidence for stored potential energy in food by burning a food snack. Revisions and corrections include conducting the experiment with one student at a time or demonstrating for all, using more frequent questioning for understanding of tasks, process, and safety, and allowing students to record the activity to assist with recall, providing evidence, and explaining results. We're in a one-to-one district, so all of our students have their computers and many others have cell phones, so there's lots of opportunity to record the results. Making these corrections along the way has a number of benefits. It limits the need for major changes along later in the course. It more effectively addresses students' needs in a timely manner. And it avoids continuing ineffective practices for that particular group of students during that particular lesson. Assessments and evaluations can take on many forms, and just a few are listed here. You need to choose what works best for you, your learners, and your content. Even your assessments can be changed if they're found not to be as effective as expected. As the provider of learning experiences, student engagement and interest are a priority. In-course correction can help to ensure that our courses are designed with that in mind. So what do I hope you'll take away from this presentation? First, that ongoing evaluations or assessments of a course and student progress within that course help ensure that all students benefit and grow. Students receive feedback and assistance in a timely manner using in-course corrections before it's too late. And with this method, courses become more efficient and effective over time, minimizing the need for further revisions. Keep in mind that you are a guide in your student's journey of learning. Sometimes you'll need to choose a new path in order to reach your destination, and in-course corrections can help you identify that need. Remember, no course is perfect from the start. Students change and so do we. Choose a path that best suits both of you. Remember, you're in this together. Thank you for taking the time to view this presentation. I hope you gained a better understanding of the use and benefits of in-course corrections.